Yes, we're the first regulated investment-based crowdfunding platform in Cyprus, and the only one. So
I know nothing. Treat me like a 5-year-old kid. Help me understand what the heck is crowdfunding.
yeah.
What's your dream?
My dream is to create a pan-European investment-based crowdfunding platform with the reach in Cyprus in order to attract this foreign investment into the ventures that I know they are here in Cyprus, and unfortunately they can't grow because we don't have the proper funding for them. All that culminated into this ideology that investing in Cyprus is kind of like gambling.
It's like risky,
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's so risky that it's not even worth it. So unfortunately, we have a generation or two that have this idea embedded at the back of their minds, and automatically as soon as you open the conversation about investing, they're like, oh my god, they're trying to scam me out of my money.
Welcome to another episode of Made in Cyprus, big entrepreneurial journey from a tiny island. And today with me, I have Frixos Larkos, the founder of Crowdbase, the first crowdfunding platform in Cyprus. And welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me here, Marty. I'm very excited to be part of this and to explore some ideas about entrepreneurship and what's going on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know that you're a busy man, like everyone in this podcast. So thanks again for gifting us some of your time. For the one of you that don't know Frixos spent quite a lot of time in UK, working with finance, wealth management, insurance. And then before coming to Cyprus and putting all his self into crowdfunding. So is it correct that Crowdbase is the first in Cyprus?
Yes, we're the first regulated investment-based crowdfunding platform in Cyprus, and the only one. So
I know nothing. Treat me like a 5-year-old kid. Help me understand what the heck is crowdfunding.
Yeah. So initially, crowdfunding started in the form of rewards-based crowdfunding. So like Kickstarted, people will have a cool idea that they wanted to finance or somehow get started, but they didn't have the money for it. So instead of going around and asking for investors to come in, they would go to the people through the internet and showcase this cool idea. They had this cool product, and they were like, okay, if you back my project, then I'll give you perhaps the end product when it's ready. And this slowly evolved into investment-based crowdfunding, which is what we're doing, whereby instead of getting a product in return for backing an idea or a project or a company, you would get shares in that company. So you can essentially invest in these companies, new companies usually, innovative companies, for a much lower amount of money that you would normally have to.
So it's almost like a crowdfunded VC kind of like, so people get to invest less money, but also still get less control, let's say, of the company, and then have part of like this venture that they feel that it's going to be successful, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, so I got that. How did you get to that place? So tell me about you in UK and the reason why you came back, and let's talk a bit about your background.
Of course. So I was studying in the UK right after high school. To be honest, I never had intent to come back to Cyprus unless I was gonna do something of my own, and that came a bit faster than I expected, to be honest. So what happened was, right after, while I was doing my master's degrees in financial analysis at London Business School in London, I was working with this Cypriot investment banker and we were preparing a tender offer for the Cyprus Equity Fund, the one that's now going to be handled by Dimitrios Zopos and Yannis, and it's called 33s. But we were working on the first round of this back in 2019. Unfortunately, kind of fell through the first time around, but through the work I was doing for the project, I saw the lack of funding that we had here in Cyprus, especially for innovative ideas and startups. And at the same time, I saw the effect that crowdfunding had in the US, UK, and Israel. It was really big, and it was funding all these new and exciting ventures. So I thought, why don't I bring that to Cyprus to help hopefully solve part of these, financing problem that we have? And fortunately, there was also a directive by the CISEC in place for investment by crowdfunding, which back then, back in 2020, it was quite advanced for a European economy to have such a framework.
Interesting. So you said something really interesting. Like you had this realization that there isn't much backing when it comes into investment and funding in Cyprus. Yadi.
Oof, that's a big question. I think there is a multiple factors that play into it. Firstly, the lack of financial literacy. Unfortunately, we are years behind the rest of the world in terms of how we teach, students and even children about financial literacy, how to manage their money, how to not just investing, but also spending. What should, how to budget yourself in order to, make proper financial decisions in the long term and be able to, accumulate wealth over time.
So not even the big crisis of 2000 and something taught us something in terms
unfortunately,
of Cyprus,
no.
right?
And on top of that, the crisis you mentioned of, let's just say 2000, we had the big stock exchange bubble, and then the 2008 and 2013 banking crisis. All that culminated into this ideology that investing in Cyprus is kind of like gambling.
It's like risky, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
it's so risky that it's not even worth it. So unfortunately, we have a generation or two that have this idea embedded at the back of their minds, and automatically, as soon as you open the conversation about investing, they're like, "Oh my God, they're trying to scam me out of my money."
The yaya with the money in under the mattress, right? I'm not gonna give it to the bank. Not investing my money.
Exactly. So the combination of these two big trends has is really limiting, the financing of.
So one, the lack of common knowledge, let's say, about how to better use money, invest, and everything. And then the second one, would you say, is kind of like mistrust into the actual potential of what you can do with those investment, right?
Yeah, because unfortunately, back in those crises, mostly in the 2000s, greed took over a lot of people. They were seeing the stock market going up and up, and they were not even thinking. They were just throwing money in it with the hope that it would just keep on going. And unfortunately, it didn't. At some point, had to stop. So they kind of associated that event with all future investment. So
interesting. And so what is the vision for Crowdbase? Where do you guys want to go? What's your dream?
My dream is to create a pan-European investment-based crowdfunding platform with the reach in Cyprus in order to attract this foreign investment into the ventures that I know they are here in Cyprus, and unfortunately they can't grow because we don't have the proper funding for them. So that's the hope, that's the dream.
Interesting. And why do you think Cyprus can do it, can make it, can get to that point? Tell me a bit more about how you saw the Cypriot financial kind of market changing in the last couple of years, because obviously you decided proactively to say, okay, now we can do it. Now is the time. What got you to that situation?
Yeah, I think it's the initiative of both the European Union and Cyprus to push towards this tech-focused entrepreneurial ecosystem that we want to build. And therefore, we're making some good progress in many ways, but there is some factors that are dragging our progress. And I think the biggest one is the financing factor. And that's why, again, they set up the Cyprus Equity Fund in hopes to help with that. But there is many stages of funding that we need to help. The equity fund is going to help with pre-seed and even seed and Series A rounds, but we're still missing that even earlier stage of angel investing. Let's just say that
pre-validation.
Yeah, exactly. That an individual, successful entrepreneur or successful businessman can come in to assist the company to take them to the next step until they get to that institutional funding stage.
Interesting. So would you say that your focus as Crowdbase is towards the early stage, or like who would you say is your ideal, let's say, who would you like to back the most, let's say, or who is your ideal company in your space, in your brand?
So the good thing with crowdfunding, you can apply it at any stage along the way of a company's age. We've seen huge companies like Revolut or Monzo or Brewdog in the UK do huge crowdfunding rounds. And it's not necessarily about the money after a certain stage. It's about engaging with your customer base and as a marketing tool as well.
You think that they're trying to give them some control and some kind of like feeling, oh, I'm actually helping one of my favorite brand. Would you say that there is a bit of that as well? Not necessarily the investment.
Exactly.
But the participation.
Participation and sense of belonging, and that you want to see these succeed even further. However, in Cyprus, what we want to assist the most, and where is the biggest challenge and the biggest problem, is at the very early stages. So we're trying to focus our efforts in that spectrum. And although it's quite hard to do so, it's quite hard to convince investors to invest in early stage ventures, but we're trying to do this as much as possible and trying to educate entrepreneurs at the same time of how to present their ideas, how to be realistic about the prospects of their startups and not demand insane valuations. So hopefully when we can get both the investors in the right mindset and the entrepreneurs offering the right thing, we can do the matching.
It's funny, so because you are actually talking to two very different audiences. On one side is the dreamer, doer, entrepreneur, and on the other side is potentially, would you say, a not very savvy investor from the other side? How explain me the so you told me that kind of like you're trying to, from one side is the more earlier stage startups, let's say, and on the other side, who are your investors? Who do you saw as the ideal people that are opening the wallet? Let's say?
So with crowdfunding, you are predominantly targeting retail investors. So the day-to-day investor doesn't need to have extreme knowledge of finance or how to invest and so on. That's our role in the equation, kind of being the filtering and the analysis, doing the filtering and the analysis in order to showcase to them ready, good pre-vetted investment opportunities, so they don't need to do that. So the majority of the investors we see is that group of people, but we are also attracting a lot of these angel investors or people that maybe they haven't done an angel investment in the past because they don't have 300,000 to invest, but they can put down 20 to 50,000, which is what we saw with EasyBoat, for example, and Snap, the past two campaigns.
Tell me a bit more about these two campaigns.
Yeah, of course. So EasyBoat was our first campaign, and we're very lucky to be able to collaborate with Sir Stelios Hadjianu to bring that to the people. Stelios himself invested $500,000 in the company, and he wanted the entrepreneurs that lead EasyBoat to go out there and fundraise the rest of the money. So he wasn't just giving them a blank check and going out there. He wants them to, feel the challenge of finding funding.
Love it.
And with crowdfunding, we felt like it was a good combination of this new startup wanted to aggressively go to the market with a big marketing budget, and which we could help with a crowdfunding campaign. So, and I think we did, like talking to people around Cyprus and telling them, oh, we did EasyBoat first. And they were like, yes, I've heard of them. I saw your ad campaigns out there promoting the crowdfunding campaign. So that was quite successful, and we managed to raise 470,000 from 140 investors.
Ding ding! Congrats!
Yes, that was great.
That's good. Did you actually got to meet Stelios?
Yeah, we got to meet him.
How is he?
He's a very prudent investor and very much in control. So although he has a lot of easy companies,
because there is an easy cafe, easy hotel, easy.
I think there's about 100 brands now. And you would think that he doesn't have time to handle every single campaign, every single company, but he's very hands-on.
I thought he was not that involved anymore, actually, but he's still very much into it.
He's very much involved, and he's very much hands-on. He wants to know exactly what's going on with every single company.
I love that.
Like even the very small details. So I was very impressed because, as you said, you would expect usually these high-profile people, very successful people, to lean back and take the back seat.
Sip a margarita by the beach and taxi, we had a run. It's interesting. So he's probably very, very attached to it, right? So he feels like big sense of belonging to his brand.
Yeah, because it's an extension of his brand.
Correct.
In many ways.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other campaign?
And the other campaign was Snap, which is, I believe, something that a lot of people wanted to see in Cyprus and a lot of people wanted to do in Cyprus. Essentially, it's a mobile app for booking wellness and beauty appointments. So book your haircut and so on. And we had a lot of people come to us and wanted to do this, but we ended up supporting.
But this is an aggregator, right? So it's not a service for the actual barber.
It is also a service.
Okay.
So it kind of works like Foodie or Wolt, but for
right.
this segment of the market, for booking those
So
apps.
they're trying to digitalize, let's say, moms and pops, kind of beauty salon, barbers and everything. They don't yet have a digitalized booking system and connect them with the demand.
Yeah,
right? So
and also support the discoverability, perhaps, of some of these shops. So they don't. A lot of these shops that have stuck to the traditional roots of getting the name out there by word of mouth and so on. Now they will have this different avenue of showcasing their services and competing.
Who are the founders?
The founders is Andonis and George, who are the founders of Gain Ventures, and they also have who are experienced entrepreneurs of themselves. They have a marketing agency. They have a few other startups like 11 Pets that they I think they invested recently in the past year, and they're constantly working onto new ideas. So this is kind of their latest venture.
Brilliant. So I guess a lot of the stuff that a lot of the kind of like campaigns you decide to collaborate with, like there is a lot of yourself you also attached to it, right? So their success becomes also your success, right? So how much work does it go into vetting a campaign, making sure it's successful and everything, and what are the ups and the downs into this situation?
Yeah, this is something that I believe sets us apart from a lot of the other platforms. We invest ourselves a lot more into it, both in supporting the startup to prepare the material and the campaign page and the marketing strategy.
You do that yourself or you have collaborators? How does that work?
We do a lot of it ourselves, but we also collaborate with third-party vendors, for example, for marketing strategies and all that, that we can do ourselves. But we want to take this active, supportive role with a lot of these startups because we want to see them succeed even after doing the crowdfunding campaign. Although we're not actively involved after a campaign, we still want to keep in touch and help them in any way we can. And we also showcase this by investing our own money into these startups. So we're not just saying, oh, invest in EasyBo, invest in Snap, and so on. We actually put our own money down where our mouth is.
Yeah, so you walk the talk. Interesting,
yes,
interesting. So what does it take to be backed by you guys then?
So in general, we are open to any idea and anyone who wants to come and present their new venture or business to us in order to consider it for crowdfunding. So we're not sector specific, or we're not looking for any specific, pre-seed or seed funding stage for the companies. But what it takes is essentially for us to believe beyond the numbers. We also screen the numbers, but beyond that, to believe that the team is the right one to execute this venture. And to convince us as well that to put our own money down for this business.
So they will pitch to you, basically how they will pitch to a normal investor, to a normal VC.
Yeah, a bit more informal than that. We're not Shark Tank by any
yet.
Yet. Maybe we do that in Cyprus.
Get your chance to pitch to Frixos.
No, we're much more informal than that. But kind of a screening process of looking at the business, looking at the financial, what's the market, what's the competition out there, who is the team, what they have done in the past, do they have the right skills to deliver this thing, what are they missing, and so on.
Brilliant. So what was the most challenging thing to for you to open? So what did you find particularly difficult to start? Because you're one of those rare cases in Cyprus where it's one standalone kind of brand, right? So it's the first.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be the first in terms of how you guys got there?
It was a quite challenging journey. I'm not gonna lie, especially in terms of getting the license. So being a regulated entity, it requires us to undergo a long period of licensing, about 13 months, to be able to start our operations.
So since the inception on the idea and to the actual keys on the door, let's say, how long was that?
That was, so the inception of the idea started in summer 2020, and the actual launch of EasyBoat was October 2022. So it was a long time that required. And so, yeah, it was a bit of an emotional, challenge.
I can imagine. Was that the only thing you were doing during that time?
Yes, basically. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So because you needed to, in order to get this license as a regulated investment company, you need to write about 300 pages of operation manuals of how you're going to work, how you're going to, handle people's investments, people's money, how you're going to, prevent anti-money laundering and all that. So there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes that needed to be prepared before we could do anything with Crowdbase. So we were very excited and we were working in the background, but we couldn't, announce anything yet. And it's hard. It's hard to keep everybody motivated on board in this journey, whilst you can, go out there and shout, "Oh my God, we're doing this thing!" And
almost.
And then finally we were there.
So how were you feeling across the journey?
There were ups and downs, No. Sometimes you're feeling very excited. You see the potential of this new idea. But at the same time, there was a long hours that you needed to prepare everything, some sacrifices along the way. And yeah, at some points you feel like you're hitting a wall and you're not progressing. So it's important to persevere throughout the journey.
What was your personal driver then? Because I cannot imagine that, like, just pushing and battling bureaucracy and jumping over red tapes all over the place, and then you. It's not like a project you see and you close the results. Like, it's such a long journey to get there. So what was the energy that said, I'm gonna focus on only on that and make it happen?
I think I just wanted to prove myself that I could kind of do this thing, and then I was also excited about the end product. I knew that we were building something that could really help the ecosystem in Cyprus. So I really wanted to see it succeed and get out there and help startups, and also showcase to investors that what else you could be doing with your money instead of living in the bank.
Interesting. And do you see your guys going out of Cyprus?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're in the process of transitioning from the Cypriot regulation for crowdfunding to this new pan-European regulation for crowdfunding.
Another journey.
Yeah.
Is it going to be that hard?
It should be easier, theoretically. It should be.
Famous words. Let's talk in how long?
In 3 months.
Let's talk in 3 months and let's see how many hair you still have.
At Reflect, I think we're going to be able to share.
So what countries would you be able to operate then with this new license?
Theoretically, we'll be able to operate at any member state of the European Union.
Amazing.
But our immediate target is Greece. There is a lot of growth in the startup ecosystem, in the real estate ecosystem as well. Yeah. And we're linked, with the language with Greece. So.
It's a classic expansion, like classic, isn't it? Like, I mean, like almost every guest in this podcast said that Cyprus is the classic sandbox, right? So the testing platform, and then we go Greece.
Yes.
Isn't it? So why do you think so? Is this just a cultural relevancy?
I think beyond that is the growth of the startup ecosystem in Greece that's been accelerating, growing since 2013. So they had this, focus on that segment of the economy for about 10 years more than us. Yeah. And now we can see the compounding effects that has had. So, for example, we've seen big names going into the Greek ecosystem. They have a few VCs now with successful stories, and now they're raising their second rounds. Successful entrepreneurs or people that work for these successful startups are now funding their own startups. So it's compounding the effect of that initial investment they had back in 2013, and now it's growing exponentially.
So as a person that is looking into new products, investment, and kind of like the future of Cyprus, Pupame, where are we going? What's your prediction for Cyprus for the next couple of years? Because obviously, quite a lot of stuff happened in the last couple of years post pandemic, right? What's next?
What's next? That's a hard question to answer. I think the tech sector is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And this inflow of foreign talent is helping us also, learn from them in many ways and accelerate our own development of local businesses into this digital transformation or embracing new technologies. And again, this is inspiring new people to go on and do their own things in the future, hopefully. So I see a positive trend for Cyprus in general in this entrepreneurial ecosystem journey. But I believe there is lots more we can do. We can't really sit back and say, oh, we want Cyprus to become an entrepreneurial ecosystem, or we want it to become a tech hub and just do nothing. It's not just saying this, that we want to do this thing. We need to apply the proper policies and take the proper initiatives in order to support this growth.
If you had the power, the magic power, and if you were the president with uninterrupted power and control, like a tyrant, let's say, like an emperor of Cyprus, what would be your first move?
My first move in terms of policy?
In terms of anything, really.
Anything. I think I would focus, and I'm being biased again, but that's my field, focus on the financial literacy angle, because it's hurting not just as the investment community or the financial industry. I think in many ways is crippling a lot of young people on how to manage their money, how to build wealth. And unfortunately, you realize that quite late. Usually it's when you go to buy your first house and you realize, oh, wait, I can't afford a house anywhere in Cyprus because I wasn't making the right decisions all along. So that's a sensitive matter for me.
I like it. So if you had to do three things to help us get to a more kind of to be more financially literate, what would you say?
So definitely beginning with the educational aspect of things.
How early?
There is a big argument to be said that even in primary school, you can start introducing some of these ideas. It doesn't need to be anything advanced, just the very, very, very basic concepts. And then as you go into middle school and high school, then you can have a proper class.
I absolutely love that. I think I started understanding money when I went first to work, you know, summer jobs when I was 14 or like around there. That's where I actually started to understand, those 10 euros that my mom was giving me every week, actually what it meant, how much you had to work for it, how many little things you can do for it, and how many more things you can do if you packed it up. I absolutely love that. And yeah, they don't teach us these kind of things unless you have a more financial literate family that kind of like wants to invest the time personally. It doesn't happen. You're absolutely right.
And it's causing a lot of problems. And again, because this generation of parents, they've been scarred from the damages of the past.
Especially in Cyprus,
Especially in Cyprus, the Bailey in the 2000s.
The wars, there's a war as well in the 70s.
So even them, they are kind of teaching their children the wrong messages now. So
schools big responsibility to play, which is not happening. Have you seen any other countries that actually are doing kind of like school financial literature?
Mostly in Scandinavia.
I was gonna say.
But the rest of Europe they're doing much better than we are doing. And I realized that when I was doing my master's degree, I got to interact with a lot of other people around Europe. And their knowledge and understanding and strategy and planning for their life journey and how they're gonna save and how gonna invest, it was quite impressive. I was like, wow, you're thinking of all these little things that I have never considered and I should have been considering. So and it doesn't necessarily come from schools, it comes from the family.
Yeah.
It comes from
Yeah.
being taught
So,
at home.
Ministry of Education, bring money and finance into
Yes.
school.
Th-
Step one.
there
What else would you
is,
do?
What else I would do? I think the whole financial system needs a bit of restructuring. So, for example, our stock exchange is very dormant lately since 2013 and 2000. Again, the same two events kind of killed the activity on the stock exchange. There is an initiative to privatize it that could really, bring a new blood into it and bring activity into it. But I haven't heard any updates on that lately. So I'm hoping that goes ahead because
School, stock.
exchange.
I'm going to challenge you now. Point number 3, yeah?
Point number 3. I can't really say foreign direct investment because we're having less Cyprus and we're kind of doing all right in that degree. I think the pension system needs kind of, again, some work in that regard because usually pension funds are the biggest, institutional investors. They have all this money that we're saving for retirement, and they need to be invested. They shouldn't be just sitting in a bank. They need to grow. So I think the policies that were implemented after 2013 due to the corruption scandals that were around managing those pension funds, they have crippled the inflow of money into any type of business, but especially early stage of business.
So basically, there is a lot of good stuff happening, a lot of things that happened in the last couple of years. Still a few fundamentals to fix in Cyprus. Yeah, would you say so?
Yeah, that's a correct description.
Right. So who would you like to see on this show? And why?
I really want to see Dimitris Papadopoulos into the show.
Common friend, okay.
Common friend,
yeah.
Co-founder of StayK. Because firstly, I want him to get a bit out of the office. Enjoy
Kick in the butt.
Yes.
Dimitris, we're coming.
I think he has a very exciting journey that a lot of people don't know about, and I want him to share this with people to inspire.
I'm a bit on the side because we are currently doing his brand strategy
Yes.
and the current rebranding. I know quite a lot about where they went, where they want to go, and everything, which I'm not going to disclose. Don't worry, Dimitris. But yeah, he will be a good addition. Great. So we have another nominee. We have more work to be done on Made in Cyprus, the podcast. And what would you like to ask to a guest, which doesn't have to be Dimitris, right? But in general, what would you like to ask to another fellow doer, fellow entrepreneur in Cyprus?
I think that this would be an interesting question for the founders that have received VC funding, which is quite few in Cyprus. We don't have so many. So I'm very interested to hear about their journey and their interaction with venture capital and how they got them to look into Cyprus. And perhaps some of the lessons they learned of how to interact with these people and what they would do differently next time.
What would you do differently in your current journey?
I don't think I'm quite there yet to be able to reflect back. I think I need maybe another year or two be able to.
You're still too deep into it.
Yes, I think so.
So you will ask someone else that had a successful relationship with a VC externally from Cyprus how the journey was, what did they learn? I think it's a great question. And what would you say to young Frixos?
Young Frixos. I would challenge him to perhaps go into tech a bit more. Because young Frixos was always into tech and exploring, around the computer and a bit into coding. But I came to a point in life that I needed to make a decision, either finance or tech. That was my two passions.
Yeah.
I chose finance, but seeing how much tech is driving everything nowadays.
Crazy, isn't it?
I would perhaps advise him to maybe not choose that path directly, but learn a lot more about it earlier in his life.
And you told me that you're still doing a bit of front end, yeah?
Yeah, this is kind of my hobby or how I relax after work.
I cannot imagine someone relaxing with coding and front end. Like to
It's
me, it
just
looks
front
like
end, like, design and a bit of UX and playing around with some elements. And yeah, I just find it interesting.
Anytime you want to dive deeper, the door here is always open. You can come and see a few things.
Sure.
Right, before wrapping it up, the most important question, as always, the most awaited part of the podcast is, tell us your joke.
Okay, I need to make sure to tell this one right. So, why did Superman not go to Justice League discussion about Bitcoin? So, it was Justice League. They were, talking about with Batman, about his $1 billion
Everyone was there. And
everybody was invited.
Bastards.
Yeah, they were talking about Bitcoin and all that. But
hit me up.
because it was a crypto night.
Good. Well, good, man. Good job. I liked it. Gosh, it's gonna be so hard.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Because our visual for this part of the podcast is like to record the first series this year and then put them all together and then ask people what was the best or the worst. I think you're either way.
Yeah.
I think you're either way of this of the scale.
I would take either trophy, either the best one or the worst one.
Crypto, perfect. Well, Frixos, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for gifting your time. And tell the people from home or from the toilet, wherever you guys are watching us, where they can find you.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me, Martin. Where you can find us, I think at any social media, or if you just search Crowdbase at crowdbase.eu, we should be there. We should have our campaigns out there, our blog posts, our knowledge base, our educational content. So it's a lot to find there.
And also Frixos is usually in most of the networking event about Tech Island, building Cyprus, the doers. Like you're obviously like a very involved member of the community. That's where we met, and every time I turn the angle in one of these networking events, Smiley Frixos is there.
That's good to hear.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.